Accidental Love by Gary Soto. Chapter 14. My mom pinched me right here. Renee stopped her hand and hand track across the baseball field to unbutton his long sleeve shirt so Marissa could see the bruise. Eventually it would fade, but then it stood out dark and sore. It was early morning before first period. They're on their way to do one more search for Sammy. Mom said again that she doesn't want me to see you. Renee confirmed her suspicions. His mother feared that she would drag her son down. Marissa presumed that in Renee's mother's eyes she was nothing but a low class chola. I'm not a bad person, Marissa insisted as she began to fill with meanness. She checked herself and diffused her anger against Renee's mother. Yes, she thought it was unfair. Renee's mother didn't know anything about her. How did she know Marissa would get in the way of her son's progress? He might go to Harvard or Stanford, but she might tag along with her own stupendous grades and test scores. Do you want to break up with me? Marissa asked. Her eyes flooded. She had to wonder if they would remain flooded through first period and beyond. That the night before in bed, she had cried about the loss of Sammy, and for comfort had brought out from her bottom drawer her old stuffed unicorn with the bent horn. No, he answered. If I did, who would tell me what kind of pants to wear? She latched her arms around his waist and kissed him. Her very own personal nerd. For her, he was superior to a cholo boy any day. Before she had to come to Hamilton Magnet, her anger would have flashed like a struck match, and she would have closed her hands into fists. Now she felt not anger, but a sadness that was deep as a river. She couldn't explain why Renee was the way he was, including that honking laugh of his. She would take him with his awful looking clothes, his nerdy friends, his schemes of tutoring others in search of money. But she had to wonder if maybe he would be bolder if his father had been part of his life. She conjured up the vatos at our old school, parading their badness. Renee, she concluded, needed a little of their juice, a little of their bravado. They didn't find the cat or the seagull. She's gone, Mercer cried. I'll find another kitten, Renee promised. A really pretty one. Just you watch. All morning, Marissa couldn't concentrate on her classes. She worked a pen quietly across her binder, her mind drifting. Then, during first break, Priscilla introduced the boy who had been following her. It was the skateboarder who had taunted Renee. Hi, said the skateboarder, whose name was Eric. Marissa could tell that he remembered her. He might even have remembered Marissa's outburst when he had called Renee a doofus. Eric was wearing fingerless black gloves and his skateboard pasted with stickers was under his arm. His hair was still dyed green. We gotta go, Priscilla said. She looked up at Eric, blushing, and all the indications were that she liked him a lot. She picked a grungy dude, Marissa told herself. They disappeared among the crowd, and from that same crowd appeared Renee. I just saw Priscilla, Marissa said. Remember that guy who called you doofus? No, I don't remember. They were heading toward a secret room in the abandoned part of the gym. What do you mean? He was riding a skateboard and we were sitting over there. She pointed to a bench where three girls in long leather coats and net stockings sat polishing their fingernails black. People call me names all the time, Renee explained. Or they used to. I can't remember them all. He changed the subject and took her hands in his. He began talking rapidly about the debate team that was forming, but Marissa was not listening. She loved Renee more than ever, all because he appeared helpless. She knew that usually the guy protected the girl, or at least that was what she had salvaged from the storylines of teenage romances. But the roles were reversed. It was she who opened the door to the gym, she who held his feet when he did sit ups, she who spotted him when he lay grunting on the bench press. He could now lift 60 pounds. He did three chin ups, legs bicycling as he struggled to get his chin up to the bar, and followed that with a set of bench presses and a single set of curls for his biceps. For Marissa, her exercise was to lift him into her arms and carry him out the door. She let him slip away from her arms when they got outside. I think, really, that I've gotten stronger, Renee remarked. I noticed some little hills in your arms, she asked him to show her his biceps, and she squeezed his small, round muscle. It wasn't rock hard, but neither did it feel like a water balloon. There was some muscle beneath the skin. After school, Renee, giddy with excitement, coaxed Marissa aside and said, Look at this. I did this in calculus. When he started to roll up his sleeve, she thought he was going to show her another bruise. She was ready to chant litany of bad words and sting that mean mother for hurling her boy. Instead, Marissa saw her name inked in a slender forearm. Her name was in a heart, and her mind leaped back to the chalkboard with the heart around the name Samantha. I'm going to get a tattoo here when I turn 17, he announced proudly. In 4 years, I'll be old enough then. In 4 years, she wondered and began to do the math at her head. How old are you? She asked. She was 14, and she would be 15 in January. I'm 13. I skipped a grade because, 13, she screamed, her chewing gum nearly shooting out of her mouth. But I'm mature for my age, he claimed. Nah, you're not. You're my beautiful egghead, my little Wavito head. She touched the ink tattoo on his arm. He wagged his head and honked his funny laugh. He agreed that he was an egghead with plenty of smarts upstairs. They walked toward the auditorium for drama rehearsal, Marissa secretly dazed by the fact that her boyfriend was younger than she. Oh, now we really have her protection. She would scratch, kick, spit, and pull hair for her dude. No bully would was going to push him around anymore. If by some unlucky chance a car should fall on him, she would beat her chest like King Kong and lift it off him. There was nothing that she would not do. She would even catch up to him in math, and in the evenings, while sipping a shared soda, they would explore complicated equations. In her veins swam a large dose of love. Marissa instructed Renee to stand on the other side of the chorus of 16 students during rehearsal. When he asked why, she told him she wanted to view him from a different angle. She longed to cast smiles and kisses and see him from a distance of a few feet. And he had better not flirt with the girl next to him. She raised a claw and hissed. You like me, huh? He asked. Mucho, she confessed. They entered the auditorium to find Romeo and Juliet fighting on stage. My mom took my cell phone away, Renee moaned into the telephone that evening. Where are you? Marissa said. Had fallen asleep on the couch with a math book on her lap. Her father was also asleep in his recliner, the remote control in his hand, and the television muted. Her mother was nowhere, but she said to Renee, wait a minute. Marissa got up and took the call in front of the porch after slipping into flip-flops. She shivered in the cool autumn air. Where are you? She repeated. I'm calling from home. Mom's in the shower. He told her that he had never been so down. I don't think she likes me, she says. She wants me to succeed, but she's mean about it. Why don't you tell your father? Marissa suggested. There was silence. Finally answered, I don't know. They talked for a while. Marissa let Renee repeat himself. How he wished he would be old enough to go away to college. In college, he would have new friends and a place of his own, even if it were only a shared bedroom in a noisy dorm. I'll go with you, Marissa said. She pictured herself and Renee driving a car to college. We can be with each other. You can help me pick my clothes, he said, trying to lighten the moment. But the mood was dark as the sky. They talked for a few minutes, and then he said he had to go. The shower had stopped. I know she's trying to break us up, but she's not going to do it. Renee hung up without a goodbye. Marissa remained on the porch, leaning against the rail. She couldn't register the emotion inside her. It was close to loneliness, yet not loneliness. It was sadness, yet not sadness. She pocketed her cell phone and walked down the porch steps to retrieve the free weekly newspaper no one ever read. She gazed up at the night sky, rubbing her arms and shivering, the stars appearing to be pulsating a silvery light, and the moon was nowhere in sight. She had read her horoscope that morning. While eating a bowl of Cheerios with thin slices of banana, the horoscope predicted her travel and changes in friendship. She remembered laughing and thinking, yeah, right, and rattling a box of Cheerios as she debated if she should have a second bowl. She had decided against it, though she devoured a second banana. Poor Renee, she caught herself crying under the night sky. Poor baby, she chanted Renee's name, retrieved the newspaper, and returned inside, where she stirred the shoulder of her sleeping father and whispered into his ear, it's time for bed, Poppy. The horoscope was true in its prediction. Marissa would travel, but not too far. There would be new friends, sort of, the next day at school. Mr. Laird, the counselor, called her into his office and informed her that she had to return to her old school because she didn't live in Hamilton District. His large hands were like gavels on his desk, and after a moment of staring, he offered a light reprimand for using her aunt's address on her registration. But you wouldn't like the school I had to go to. They slashed teachers' cars at that stupid school. Mr. Laird ignored Marissa's outburst. How did you find out? She asked. We just found out. Maybe Renee's mother told them, she thought. Was it possible? Was his mom that desperate? Marissa was escorted from Mr. Laird's office by the secretary. She waited in a room where copying machines hummed, and a janitor came in periodically to search through the cabinets. Her mother arrived an hour later, sparks nearly chipping off her high heels when she was led to a room where her daughter sat, legs splayed and arms crossed over her chest. Marissa's posture said everything. She was mad. In turn, her mother was even madder. She scolded the counselor, then spent some of the wrath on the vice principal. Right then, Marissa could see that she was like her mother. Her mother let her words fire and hit the school staff where they stood. While Marissa had sat in the room waiting, she mused on what she could only call her misfortune. When she risked a cell phone call to Renee's house, his mother picked up and told her that he was ill in bed. She was hostile and warned her to leave her son alone. Now the showdown at school. There are policies, the vice principal claimed sternly. He was a man who dealt daily with students and parents and knew when to raise and lower his voice. The moment called upon him to hitch up his pants and defend his school. Marissa's mother waved him off and led her daughter outside to the parking lot. They got into the car and drove away. That stupid school, her mother barked, knuckles white from her hard grip on the steering wheel. But, Mom, we don't live in a school district. Miss Laird was right. All the anger had left Marissa. She just felt defeated. She sat with her hands laced on her lap and didn't give any credence to her mother's illogical tirade. This was America, and her daughter could go to any school she pleased. Marissa let her mother speak her mind because her own mind was on Renee. Sure, they would see each other on the sly, but she would miss seeing him daily. She started weeping and turned away when her mother offered her a Kleenex. She stared out the car window until the nice neighborhood around Hamilton slowly gave way to the homes that were not so nice. By third period, Marissa was at her old school, sitting in an English class where the students were asleep, talking, or looking out the window, scarred with the names scrawled on it. The teachers, Miss Pacheco, was discussing another Robert Frost poem set in the snow. Although no one among them had ever seen snow, ice, yes, and ice in big gulps, and sodas of various flavors, but snow falling from the sky and whitening the world with a fresh look and absolute no. There is in a wobbly chair in the third row. Marissa could see that she wasn't going to go far. She might never cease to know. She might never know another kind of life. In a way, the horoscope of the previous day was a lie. This is the end to chapter 14.